I'm not sure if you can see my entire shirt on camera, but it says community is resistance. A better world is possible. Can you see it? I hope you can see it. Hello, welcome back. My name is Yuna, and this is my channel where I talk about books. I don't know if you're like me, but January has felt both excruciatingly long and has flown by before I've had a chance to get my feet under me. Yeah, it has just felt like one fire after another after another. I hope you are taking care of yourselves and finding some time in the middle of everything to also do things that you enjoy and that still make you feel like a human and make you feel grounded and remind you of the things that are worth fighting for. With that said, as January is coming to a close, I wanted to do a video talking about my potential TBR for February. So I am a person who plans their reading in advance, but I'm not a person who always sticks to those plans. So I'm going to share what is currently on my list for February, and we'll see what I actually end up reading. I don't like to be someone who plans my reading too far ahead, but because I do a decent amount of my reading from library books that I check out, I do have to have some sort of plan depending on where the holds are at or how long it's going to be before I can get a book on my shelf. This video shouldn't be too long. I'm going to try to breeze through them. I do always try to keep things succinct, but I have noticed I have a tendency to ramble, but I'm going to try and work on my word economy. Some of these books I do have physically and own. Some of the books I've purchased and are on the way, so I will have them in time for February. And some of these books I have on hold at the library, so we'll see if I do manage to get them by February. I'm going to start off with a trilogy that I'm hoping to tackle, and that is the First Law series by Joe Abercrombie. I do have all three books, but I'm just going to hold the first one because it hurts my hands. The first book in the trilogy is The Blade Itself. I did talk about this trilogy in my 2026 Priority TBR video. Like I said there, I've been wanting to do a bit more grimdark reading, and I hear everyone praising Joe Abercrombie as the king of grimdark, so I'm going to start with this trilogy. I don't know a whole lot about the premise of this story. I think it's supposed to be sort of a classic medieval-esque setting. I haven't looked into it anymore since I filmed that other video, which maybe I should have, but on the back we have words such as bloody and relentless, delightfully twisted and evil, heroic fantasy without conventional heroes, gritty edge. So yeah, I'm expecting some complex characters, political tension, a lot of dying. I'm assuming many people will die or at least get hurt. And I'm down for all that, so I'm hoping that I can blast through this series in February. All right, now we're doing a sharp 180 for the tone in the next book that I want to read in 2026, and that is Howl's Moving Castle by Diana Wynne Jones. So I, for the life of me, can't remember if this is going to be a reread or a first-time read. I remember coming across the book when I was younger and flipping through it, but it was years ago. I really can't remember if I actually read this book. And either way, it doesn't matter because it's been so long, I don't remember. Howl's Moving Castle is the story of Sophie and Howl. Sophie Hatter is a girl who gets cursed by the Witch of the Waste and turns into this old woman. She finds herself in a magical moving castle, which is home to Howl and also Calcifer, a little fire spirit. Many of you may have seen the Miyazaki animated film Howl's Moving Castle, which is an adaptation of this book. I have, and I love that movie and the magic and the whimsy in it so very much. So I'm very excited to get to this. I've heard that it is quite different from the movie, and I didn't realize that it's a series. I believe this is book one in maybe 3 books. I'm not entirely certain, but I'm very excited to get to it and see how it differs from the movie, how it's the same. I can't remember if people have said that Howl is more or less unbearable in the books compared to the movie, so we'll see. And I managed to get this beautiful edition secondhand, so I'm super excited. It has this beautiful cover, and on the inside, it also has some more lovely art. I'm assuming that's Calcifer. He looks so different from the Ghibli movie version, which I love. I love seeing a different rendition of it. I'm very much looking forward to getting to this, and I'm hoping that it's whimsical and fantastical and just sweeps me away to a world of wondrous items and magic and creatures. So I will report back. All right, the next few books on my list are ones I don't have physically yet. They're either on the way to me or, again, I've had them hold on the library. But next we'll talk about one that I mentioned also in my priority TBR for 2026, and that is Educated. Educated is a memoir written by Tara Westover, and it's the story of her life. She grew up with a survivalist family, I believe a Mormon survivalist family, and she had no access to education growing up. The first time she steps foot in a classroom at all, I believe she's already 17 years old at that point. In the book, Tara tells the audience about her experiences again growing up and then eventually getting her PhD at, I believe, Cambridge. It's either Oxford or Cambridge, but I'm pretty sure it's Cambridge. It just sounds like a really unique and singular experience, and I've been wanting to read more nonfiction and memoirs, so I am very excited to get educated. I feel like I'm doing pretty good with keeping these short, so I'm going to keep that energy going. Next is yet another book from my priority TBR for 2026, and that is Braiding Sweetgrass by Robin Wall Kimmerer. I do have this book physically. I've just lent it to a friend, so I have to get it back before I read it. The book is a beautifully warm meeting of botany and indigenous traditions and indigenous practices around nature and the natural world. When I first read the book years ago, I felt it was just the most beautiful invitation to consider and reconsider our relationship with other living beings, whether it's plants or animals, and imagine the ways that our relationship could be one that's based more in gift giving and reciprocity instead of the one that's become so pervasive now, which is just kind of based on extraction and humans thinking that they are more central, more important to the universe than the rest of the natural world. I loved the book the first time around. I'm very excited to do it again, this time with audiobooks, so I can hear Robin narrate her own words. Scooting right along, I have two novellas I'd like to get to. So I really want to read The Everlasting by Alex E. Harrow at some point this year, but I haven't read any Alex E. Harrow, and I was looking it up and saw that she had the Fractured Fables series, which is a series of fantasy retelling. So I'm going to try to get to Splinter Shattered, I believe it's called Splinter Shattered and Mirror Mirror. These are supposed to be, I believe, sort of feminist retellings of Sleeping Beauty and Snow White, and they look quite short, so I'm imagining I could probably get through both of them in a day or two. Next is a book that I bought on Pango a few days ago, and I think it should be here in a week or so, and that is Natural Beauty by Ling Ling Huang. This book, I believe, is literary fiction meets horror meets satire. In the story, I believe we follow a young Chinese-American musician as she ends up working at a beauty and wellness store. It's supposed to be a commentary on the beauty and wellness industries, on racism, on beauty standards, classism, immigrant experiences. I don't know a whole lot past that, and from how it's been described, it seems like it's a book better experienced and explained anyway, so I am anxiously checking my mailbox every day, and I feel like even if I don't get to some of the other books in February, this is one that I'm absolutely going to want to get to. Second to last for my February TBR is going to be Lie With Me by Philippe Besson. Philippe? I don't know. The book is the queer love story of two French teenagers, and I don't really know much else beyond that. I've just heard that it's a heartbreakingly tender and bittersweet sort of coming of age love story, and that is literally all I know. I did end up going to the library and picking up In the Absence of Men, which is his other book, and I'm going to read this before Lie With Me arrives, so I'm hoping this one I also enjoy. And finally, last on my list of books that I would like to tackle in February is My Brilliant Friend by Elena Ferrante. This is the first book in the Neapolitan Quartet, and I do have the whole quartet. I'm hoping I can get to at least the first and maybe the second book in the series. This series chronicles the friendship of two women, Elena and Lila. I believe it starts when they are children. They might be teenagers or children. I don't know. It starts when they're quite young, and it follows them through adulthood. It follows them through motherhood, through marriages, etc., etc. Now, I'm not too sure about what happens in terms of the plot of the series, and I don't really think it's supposed to be a plot-driven series. It seems like it's supposed to be more an exploration of the relationship between those two characters and the way that relationships get complicated by things like class, gender, all these other factors. So I am really excited to get to this, especially because I've heard some very interesting things about the author in that no one really knows anything about Elena Ferrante. Correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, I believe she's just an extremely mysterious character. No one's ever spoken to Elena, seen Elena, like there's never been any interviews or public appearances. I don't think anyone is even 100% sure that Elena Ferrante is actually a woman, but it's very interesting because, like I said, one of the main characters in this book is named Elena, and I think this might be a bit of a spoiler, but I think at the end she ends up being an author or wanting to be an author, so people are also speculating whether or not this is actually sort of autobiographical. I have no idea, but either way, I am looking forward to getting to the series. I've heard almost only good things about it. I'm giving myself a pat on the shoulder because I feel like I did a pretty good job keeping that short. Now, if I do a monthly wrap up at the end of February and I'm going into whether I liked or didn't like these books and sharing my thoughts on them, I'm sure it's going to be nearly double the length. But for now, so thank you for sticking around, and I hope I see you for the next one. Bye.